Hello and welcome back to Serie A Spotlight. We're your hosts Jake
And Matt.
You know what time it is!
I can't tell you guys enough how much you've been my internal monologue when thinking about football for the last year.
Yes! Amazing! We get to record while drinking some wine. Jake and I will have a very special soft spot for Salernitana.
we love him.
We love him. Stop zooming in on Allegri's face, bro. You're gonna make
How
me
are you
break.
exposing me?
Because you're gonna make me break, man. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Serie A Spotlight. This is episode number 172 and we're your host Matt.
I'm Jake.
Here to give you guys all the talking points about Matchday 35 in Serie A.
What a match day, huh? And by what a match day I mean how meh were those goals, bro?
Bro, every single goal was kind of, I had to give it to Raspadori, my goal of the week.
Well-worked free kick.
Very well-worked free kick. I think McTominay deserves an assist for that.
Yes.
And if not him, Conte for setting up that genius bit of play.
Absolutely. McTominay ran next to the wall, impeding the goalkeeper's vision, of course, and then he jumped around a little bit, right, distracted him, then ducked out of sight as Raspadori shot it to get the winner, quite frankly. For me, I would, just to be different, I'll give it to Kike Perez because his goal was actually quite a nice bit of individual brilliance where he knocked it around the defender, went round him himself and finished rather clinically. So mine goes to Kike Perez of Venezia.
A good goal by Kike. Good showing by Venezia.
Careful the wire, bro, it's hot.
Sorry, because we're pouring ourselves a nice coffee for those that are still listening on Spotify.
Yes, which is the vast majority of you.
Yeah, but
I don't blame you,
check us out on YouTube as well. Before we dive into anything, we want to thank our media partners, Benevo Bid. Check them out in the link in our description. You can get autographed items from top players in Serie A, including match-issued kits, and most of the proceeds go to a local charity called Puttino Cares. And especially a great shout out this week to our media partners in Benevobid, because thanks to them, we got to meet a certain Javier Zanetti this week, which was really, really fucking cool, bro.
As you can see, we've got this plaque with his signature. If you go on our social media, you'll see pictures with him. We got him to sign a few kits, had to convince him that we weren't going to make a profit of these, and that they were going to charity. Of course, he's a very humble man.
Yeah, lovely. And you could see him, he has some training camp in Malta.
He had one, yeah.
He comes to Malta every year, and you just see him playing football with everyone, all the Maltese people, having a kickabout with Zanetti. It was really cool to see. And we stopped him on like 3 separate occasions, and he was always like super calm. He wasn't like, he was late for his flight to go watch Inter against Hellas Verona. So yeah, but he made it in good time. But we're not here to talk to you about that. Of course, we're back to discuss Serie A. We'll also be touching upon the Champions League match, semi-final, second leg, where Inter have now officially gone through to the final, where they will be facing either Arsenal or PSG. We'll know more tonight because there is the second leg taking place. But what this has to be, we'll get into it later on, but it has to be up there with two-legged best Champions League semi-final in history.
Because people bitch and moan about the sport and they say, oh my god, because football is dead and nothing matters anymore, and how the game's gone and all anyone ever cares about is money nowadays and all this shit. I'm sorry, first of all, you are watching the wrong football.
Yeah.
Because, I'm sorry, if you look at the, in inverted commas, smaller leagues, there's a whole lot of authenticity, there's a whole lot of passion, there are a whole lot of people who don't actually make that much money, who playing and scoring means absolutely everything to them. And last night showed us that Inter, man, it meant the world to them. And what they lack compared to Barcelona in talent and flashiness and Gioco Bonito, whatever the fuck they call it, they make up for in determination, in spirit, in mentality. Because every single player of Inter yesterday played a heroic role in that victory. From Sommer to De Vrij with the block at the end, to Acerbi with his goal, to Dumfries in the first. Every single player,
Lautaro
everyone,
injury.
even Taremi holding up the ball and having probably his best game since joining. They were really, really good, and even seeing them and how much it meant to them after the game, at the end of the game, it makes you realize that this is not a plastic sport, and these are people whose dreams are coming true, essentially.
Absolutely.
And you see the way Frattesi celebrated his goal, for example. The raw explosion of emotion. The guy loses all composure when he scores, just like our friend behind me in Inzaghi. Benevo, check it out, signed kit. Inzaghi was the CEO of doing that, right? Just an explosion of raw emotion. Mm-hmm. He's like that, man.
He loves
it was hilarious seeing it on that stage, we're used to seeing it in Serie A.
And then it was hilarious seeing him speak to Thierry Henry, saying, I was so composed because if I missed, I would have been fucked. It was really good to see some of, because I don't watch many interviews of footballers because it's in Italian, I'm still learning Italian kind of thing. So watching it in English, you get to see the player's personality come out. And it was really cool to see Frattesi just being a chill guy. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, obviously I'm a Milan fan. I was rooting for Barca as a Milan fan. But there was nothing stopping me from smiling when Acerbi scored that 92nd minute goal, because the guy has been through, firstly, at 37 years old, it's his first ever Champions League goal. It's his second Champions League final in 3 years. This is the same guy that at Milan turned to alcoholism after losing his father, went to Sassuolo for a fresh start and got testicular cancer twice, beat it twice, went to Lazio, was essentially forced out by the curva of Lazio, went to Inter, and he's doing what he's doing now.
But his trajectory since the Sassuolo days were always upwards. He worked so hard. And there were some complications as well because of some medication, because of the cancer he had failed, some kind of doping test
I believe that was, he had found out that he had cancer for the second time because he failed some kind of test. And they found and they found the regrowth of his cancer. But beat it twice, and you see how much it means.
He's a hero, and even the fact that he scored that winner, he was the one to charge up the pitch and to get on the end of that cross. Absolutely.
When Inter fans were leaving the stadium, something, and they didn't get let back in.
Of course. Sorry, I mean, I respect that you might have work the next day, or you might not like crowds or whatever. But come on, exactly. This is the stage where crazy things happen.
Exactly.
How many fucking games do you need to have seen to realize that this can happen? Like how many Roma Barças and PSG Barças? It's always Barca.
Look a week before, and that's another thing. I agree that this is the best semi-final in recent memory, for sure.
Yes.
I disagree with the sentiment that football is dead and this revived it. We had the best World Cup final ever, in the last World Cup. There was a Champions League that Real won, where they came back from behind pretty much in every single game against PSG, against City, and against all these teams. You check out the domestic leagues. You see the last Euros with Lamine Yamal becoming the youngest ever Euro scorer at 16 years of age. The sport isn't dead. People think it's dead because Ronaldo's off in Saudi and Messi is off MLS. Casuals think that the sport is dead.
And people think it's dead as well because of the fact that certain big teams have been taken on by certain groups that might not understand.
Yes, and where are they in the Champions League?
Yes.
And where are they in the Champions League, those teams?
I'm saying, for example, Milan. Milan fans will argue that the game is gone because of their situation. But if you look at Serie A, that's a great example as to how the intelligent running of a business is way more effective than just having a shit ton of money and not investing it properly.
That's my point. Inter have become the first team in history to make the Final Four. And I believe I'm not sure if it was their squad worth or their revenue was 14th in the Champions League.
Wow.
And now they're in the final.
Yeah, there we go. That's smart operation.
It's even the fact masterclass.
That you look at, for example, the top 7 in Italy, and you have the likes of Bologna there, You've got, you know, Atalanta there who have become a staple there, you know?
How can football be dead when we had Cagliari Frosinone last season, huh?
Exactly.
That was
comeback from a 4-0.
That was Inter Barca.
Exactly.
But I think we discussed the game enough, considering we're going to go into more detail about it later.
Exactly. I don't even know if we should go.
Right?
There's one more thing I can say about this game if we're not going to touch up on it. Barcelona's high line is suicide.
Can I tell you? Because they had devastating injuries going into this Barca. They had Lewandowski, and then they had Koundé and Keita, I believe, who are their two wing backs, which are detrimental to the way Barca play with a high line because of their recovery. Firstly, Barca and their manager, his name escapes me right now. He was the Germany manager. Hansi Flick. He has exposed VAR beautifully. With this high line, because they have conceded the most offsides. Well, the teams opposite them have gotten the most offsides against Barca in history. Like the amount of offsides that they're drawing is super high. That's the amount of offsides that they're drawing. Adds because he's exposing VAR, playing with that super high line. However,
exposing it or
utilizing
it, okay.
And exposing it to a certain way. But my point is, they had those two injuries of their wing backs. They were playing centre backs as their wing backs, and they still played with the same high line against Inter. I was seeing criticism because Simone Inzaghi opted for Di Marco over someone more defensively sound like Carlos Augusto. But you're either going to worry about Lamine Yamal breaking through from behind, or you're going to say, oh, look, they're playing with a super high line with centre backs playing as wing backs. Are we going to... Like that is where you smell blood and you attack. Those are the decisions you have to make. And they went in there, Inter knew, look, we're going to concede in this game. We're definitely going to concede. We conceded 3 in the last one. Even when Inter scored 2 in the first half. We know from watching Inter every single week, we know if Inter have a 2-goal lead this season, they could blow it.
Yeah.
They've blown it to Milan. They've blown it to Parma. They've blown it to Juve.
It's true.
It was blowing. But this time they almost blew it. But I have to take my hat off to Inter. I'm glad that they made it in the way that they made it. But you have to show respect after a showing like that. They wore their hearts on their sleeves. I think they're gonna be fucking exhausted against Torino in the upcoming match. But a good segue, kind of, but not, is that they definitely prioritize Champions League because they made 10 changes
for sure.
For their Serie A match.
Of course, yes. 10 changes and even the fact that game was played at quite a low intensity.
Yeah.
Yes, bro. I mean, that high line was absolute suicide. Playing Di Marco was the way to go because of the cross-field passes he can play through Dumfries, as well as the forward passes he can play to Thuram, who both of those guys can totally stretch any opponent. Having Bastoni next to Di Marco makes it a very complicated task for Barcelona to organize their press and who to prioritize, because they can both ping it forward.
Exactly.
Right? You've got the advantage. You look at Inter's squad. They have it's a total mismatch physically. Inter are so much stronger than Barcelona, so much bigger. They're like giants next to them. You keep Di Marco on for those corners, right? For the set pieces, for the crosses. Quite frankly, you've got Çalhanoğlu and Di Marco. It's a match made in heaven. I just want to read out this joke that our patron of the week, Santi, sent us. Yes, Santi, you're the patron of the week because of how active you have been this week.
I enjoy your activity, Santi.
Yes, your voice notes, you're funny, you're knowledgeable, entertaining. It's good. He said, why watch Inter Barcelona when you can simply snort cocaine and ride a motorcycle out of a helicopter?
That's what it felt like. It's genuinely.
I woke up with a hangover. I was just sat there watching. I didn't do anything. And I woke up hungover, yes. And shout out to Joey D, who edges even closer to winning that free kit.
Yeah.
His name is Gatti by nature this week. And shout out to my beautiful Sarah. She's climbed to 6th.
And shout out to your beautiful Matthew that climbed to 19th.
Exactly. Well done, bro.
Thank you.
Next year will be different, huh?
Yes.
In our fantasy league.
We treated it like Lega FC, Fanta Calcio.
Yes. I was just going for people who score. Like, I didn't know that Darun stacks fucking 20 points on average a week. Like,
yeah. If you guys are new here, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, with weekly episodes covering every single match, every single team, every single week, and even have weekly bonus tactical analysis episodes called Tactics Imperium by John Leah. As Jake mentioned, we do have Patreon. It's $3.99 a month, and you can win a free kit if you win our fantasy league, which you will join, obviously, if you are a patron. Again, the season's coming to a close, so if you want to join us for next season, now is the time. Before we get into the rundown, I want to mention, obviously, so Monza officially relegated, Sassuolo officially promoted, and whilst we wait to know what other 2 teams are also going to be relegated, will it be Venezia, will it be Empoli, will it be Lecce, will it be Parma, who will it be? We know that Pisa are back in Serie A, managed by Filippo Inzaghi, who has once again earned a team promotion from Serie B, really hoping that he can keep the team in Serie A this time if Pisa hang on to him, obviously.
Absolutely. I'm very curious to see how Pisa will invest. They had a very good season, cementing that second spot pretty much uncontested, with Spezia in third, 9 points beneath them. Their top scorer is, I was looking at their team last time, Matteo Tramoni.
Yes, we had mentioned Tramoni.
Yes, the French Matteo Tramoni, despite his
Fritalian
Matteo Tramoni, who I'm sure we'll be seeing in Serie A next season. Hopefully playing for Pisa, but we might see him elsewhere. 25 years old, forward, right-footed. They also have a midfielder who pulls all the strings, he orchestrates everything. His name is Stefano Moreo, who's Italian, 31 years old, a little bit of a late bloomer, but he's had a very good season over there. So yes, very excited to see. Not many names I recognize on this Pisa team, to be honest with you. I recognize the goalkeeper Semper, who used to be with Palermo. But other than that, to be honest, bro, I'm curious to watch these guys on a regular basis.
But we will obviously be having our episode of Meet the Boys later on throughout the summer, where we talk about all the teams that were promoted. Before that, we'll also cover, because we will be watching the Serie B promotion playoffs very closely, so we will be covering those as well. So a lot more to come, but welcome Pisa, welcome to the most beautiful league in the world. We can't wait to have you. And welcome back, yes. Yes, shall we get into the rundown?
Yes, let's go.
So this is what took place this week. Napoli and Inter both held on to 1-0 leads against relegation-threatened sides, with Napoli still leading the charts by 3 points. Atalanta put the nail in the Monza coffin, finally confirming the side's relegation, as Atalanta seem on course to remain third. In a decisive encounter for top 4, Bologna and Juve drew 1-1. This sent Bologna down to 7th, and Juve, Roma and Lazio are now all tied in 4th place on 63 points after scraping past Fiorentina and Empoli respectively. Milan continued to lurk in the background as they once again came back from behind to beat Genoa. Huge doubleheader versus Bologna coming up, including a Coppa final. The relegation battle remains fire after a Parma, Cagliari, Empoli and Lecce loss, as Venezia pick up a valuable point against Torino. Lecce are now just 1 point ahead of Venezia and 2 points ahead of Empoli. So the next few matches are really detrimental for these sides.
Absolutely. They are of crucial importance.
I could just see what you have in front of you right now.
Yes, this is the delusion of Milan fans. So this Excel sheet was drafted, was put together and was sent on one of our Milan group chats. And it's funny, but it's also interesting. It paints a good picture. So if Milan beat Bologna, Roma and Monza, they finish on 66 points, right? If they go and win those 3 games. Whereas if Fiorentina win 1 and draw 2, that leaves them with 64 points. If Bologna lose to Milan and then draw to Fiorentina and Genoa, that leaves them also on 64 points. If Lazio draw to Juve and lose to Inter and Lecce, who might be fighting for their lives, they'll finish on 64 points. If Roma lose to Atalanta, lose to Milan and draw to Torino, which is definitely not going to happen, they'll finish with 64 points. And if Juve draw to Lazio, draw to Udinese and lose to Venezia, who might be fighting for their lives, they'll finish on 65 and Milan will get Champions League.
And if my grandmother had wheels, bro,
yes,
she would be
a tractor. Bro, it's too late, man. It was all about starting off strong immediately after that international break. That game against Atalanta, you needed to get something out of it.
It was too late 2 months ago.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
It was that direct encounter against Fiorentina that Milan lost.
Now it's just the case that Milan might get painfully close. That's it. That's how I see it. Milan have a chance of getting painfully close to Champions League qualification. But alas, hopefully they win the Coppa Italia.
Yeah, and you know, next season, if Milan make Europa League, which is a concrete possibility because they are one game away from doing that, a game against Bologna in a neutral stadium at the Stadio Olimpico, and Milan have done it in finals, they've done it in one final this year, then they can get Europa League, and they will naturally be one of the favourites for the Europa League, depending on what manager is brought in and what changes are made, obviously. But let's get into the episode, shall we?
Yes.
The 20 minutes in, we're not late at all. Shall we start off with Lecce Napoli? With Napoli being in first place, obviously. Kristovic and Berisha they returned from suspension for Lecce, but they had Gabijan and Marchvinsky out for the rest of the season. Napoli had Buongiorno, Juan Jesus and David Neres out, so they opted for a 4-4-2, moving Oliveira to centre-back, with Raspadori stepping alongside Lukaku up front, that plan B that Conte loves so much, and that makes him... he showed a lot of growth this season by coming up with these plan Bs that perhaps he didn't have before. It was a quick start for Napoli in this game. Lukaku initially had the ball in the back of the net in the second minute, but he was marginally offside. Play was halted in the 6th minute due to Lecce fan protests. Now, it's obvious, it's good to address this and to talk about this. This was Lecce's first home match since the death of Graziano Fiorita. The tribute before the match was beautiful, and again, it's good to see teams come together. Conte paying his respect as well, because Conte grew up in Lecce.
Yes, he's viewed as a traitor there.
Yes, he is. But in these moments, traitor, whatever, like, he paid his respects to a club legend. At the end of the day, he's been there 25 years. And, you know, Lecce fans very much made their voices heard. Again, the protest is against the way the Lega handled the death of Fiorita, where they still essentially made them play against their own will against Atalanta while the team was grieving and the team was in shock.
And while he died on Retiro with them, with the team, you know, away from his home.
Imagine
so
that, man.
It's not simply the case that the physiotherapist of a club died prior to a match.
He was sick for a while or something like that. They were in Retiro together as a team, and obviously everyone that follows football or follows any sport knows that it's not just the players on the pitch, it's the entire medical staff and everything, the groundskeepers, the kitmen, they're all part of the team, especially if you've been there. Then probably your two longest serving members of the club combined. 25 years he had been there.
Exactly. So yes, rightfully so. They protest. Take for instance how the passing of Astori was handled. You know, what's the difference? Because he's a player. You know, do you know the stuff? You're familiar with the stuff?
Yeah, because he's a rich footballer at the end of the day. Unfortunately, that's the way that it's
he's in the public eye.
Yeah, but there were fireworks, there were flares, there was the whole lot. Good on you, Lecce, making your voices heard. And then the only goal of the match came from my goal of the week, a training ground routine free kick that, you know, Napoli have really nailed down these little ways to win matches. They've put a lot of effort into their set plays and little build-up routines as well. This was brilliant. Raspadori went for the keeper's side and McTominay took the decoy role as he pretended like he was taking the free kick, went just behind the wall into the vision of the goalkeeper, looked left, looked right, make sure he's onside, jumped up and down, and then ducked under the shot. Completely caught the goalkeeper off guard and into the back of the net. Lecce fought hard to get back into the game. I think Gaspar hit the crossbar with a header. Helgesen had a deflected shot that was saved by Meret, and Helgesen at a point. Helgesen was really good when he came on. He was really involved. He even tried to catch Meret off guard from a free kick from a crossing position. Went for the near post, but it hit the side netting. And then for the second time in 2 matches, Lobotka came off carrying a knock, whilst Anguissa played 90 minutes. Remember, both these players came off injured in the last game. Anguissa played 90 minutes. Lobotka had to be substituted. Worrying signs with 3 finals essentially coming up for Napoli.
Worrying signs, however, another job well done by Napoli. They created virtually very little in this game, just to not say nothing. and they invented a goal off the training ground.
Yeah.
Which is literally the way to do it, right? When you've got fitness issues or squad limitations, this is the way to do it. You organize the defense and you invent goals from unpredictable scenarios or from well-rehearsed drills. And we see some players being utilized over here that weren't utilized in the previous game. We see a centre-back partnership of Oliveira and Rahmani, which is very good improvisation by Conte, with Raspadori and Politano flanking Lukaku. It's overall, man, another strong display from Napoli, who find themselves in the position that Conte hardly ever slips up. I can't recall a time when Conte blew a lead in a league title challenge.
Yeah, and this is what a title charge looks like, right? It's a whole lot of defending and catching a team out, inventing a goal, essentially winning these games 1-0. In fact, this is, if I'm not mistaken, what number of, I think it's 4 clean sheets in a row for Napoli, which is a record. And they also have the best defensive record in Europe's top 5 leagues this year. And you could say, is it because they signed Buongiorno? Buongiorno's been injured for a lot of matches.
Yeah, they've played Juan Jesus.
The same defense that they had last year, plus Spinazzola. But Spinazzola, I don't exactly sign him for his defensive abilities, right?
Yeah. So, yes, they've only conceded 25 and they've only scored 55. Just to give you an idea, Inter have scored 73, Atalanta have scored 71. Even Lazio have outscored Napoli this season. And Milan have scored just as many goals as Napoli have this season, just to really paint the picture for you over there. But of course, defense wins titles, right?
Yeah. They now only have one away match left to play, and it's against Parma. That could be the potential banana peel. We've seen how inspired Parma have been recently as they battle relegation. The great game they had against Como, obviously they lost that game, but they could have very much won that game.
As we will let you know very soon.
So they have that one match left against Parma. If Parma beat Empoli in the match before, they're safe. Otherwise, Napoli have Genoa and Cagliari left, which are very winnable games. Of course, Cagliari is still battling relegation as well. Shout out to Raspadori, obviously that's his 5th goal of the season, and he also has 1 assist in Serie A.
Jack attack.
The Jack attack. What do you think Raspadori should do next summer? Stay and gun for the 2 up top role, keep doing what he's doing.
I think if Conte stays, he stays. He should stay. If not, and there's a risk that Napoli might go to a 4-3-3 again. If I were Raspadori, I would make sure that I go to a team where they play 2 up top for sure.
Yeah.
That's it. So I would go to Inter.
Would you go to Inter?
They keep Inzaghi, yes.
You're the direct Lautaro.
I'm Raspadori, I'm not Drake fan.
Yes. you Raspadori are almost the perfect substitute
to Lautaro.
Him and Castro.
It's
Lautaro
true.
and Castro.
It's true. They play that kind of
Lautaro
role.
and Castro, Raspadori and Castro. Obviously.
I think Inter would be a good opportunity. At the moment, Roma are playing with 2 up top. That's not a bad place to go, but you never know what manager they're gonna get. I think I would just prioritize a team that plays with 2 strikers.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Just a few words on Lecce and we can move on. Lecce have Verona away from home, Torino at home and Lazio away from home. Quite tough fixtures. That Verona away is but isn't a relegation 6-pointer because Verona have peeled away quite a bit. Just to look back on how Lecce have ended up in this position, keep in mind there's a Lecce that sacked Gotti after he had gotten 9 points in 12 matches. They hired Gianpaolo, who got them 18 points in 23 matches. So if you double, essentially, Gotti's time, it's the same record.
Yeah. It was a great start under Gianpaolo, which fizzled out very quickly.
Yeah. And it's a disappointing tenure by Gianpaolo. I know Lecce are a super limited team. At the moment, apart from Monza, I'd say they're the worst team in the league, Lecce.
I think Monza have better players than them, to be honest with you. And they're definitely one of the most limited squads in the league. Especially when it comes to offensive creativity, man.
Yeah.
Because Kristovic is a good striker, right? and Rebic technically should be deployable. But I think they weren't anticipating Rebic to be so physically inconsistent, let's just say that. And I think they were expecting more from players like Carlson maybe and Sansone to play a better role. Banda maybe to play a better role. He's also been a bit meh. Marchvinsky to play more regularly. Marchvinsky was deemed to be the perfect regista for Gianpaolo, but in reality he's been injured, which sucks. Yes. So when it comes to actually offensive creativity, they're very limited, and it might be the reason that they, in fact, get relegated.
Yeah, I agree. Shall we jump to Inter? Inter, who are second place, obviously 3 points behind Napoli. We saw a big move where they went, obviously, they made those huge changes to prioritize Champions League, perhaps willing to drop points in this game.
I think so, to be honest with you. I think the whole point was like, listen, we fucking rocked Barcelona's boat. I grabbed this remote.
Can I?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
It's somewhere. I think it's in the drawer. We rocked Barcelona's boat, right? Fuck it. We came 3-3. We scored 3 goals in their stadium. Let's rotate to oblivion and try our best to get something out of this game, then give our absolute all against Barcelona in the second leg. Now, it worked out perfectly. It worked out absolutely perfectly because just like Napoli, Inter won ugly this game. So they rotated very heavily. They started, even with the goalkeeper, they rotated. They started Martinez in goal, Bisek, Devray and Augusto at the back, Darmian, Frattesi, Aslani, Zielinski, Zalewski, Arnautovic, Correa. Right?
What nightmares are made of.
What nightmares are made of. And they got a penalty very early on, just 9 minutes into the game. It was awarded after a clumsy handball by Nicolas Valentini, won by Frattesi. Aslani stepped up, he took it, cool, calm, composed, did a mini stutter, sent the keeper the wrong way, very good penalty. And it's his first league goal in over a year.
Fucking hell.
Yes.
It's nice that they gave it to him. Probably on the pitch he might have been the most qualified to take that penalty, even though Zielinski was the rigorista of Napoli back in the day.
And I wonder, I'm sure Arnautovic can hit them too.
Yeah.
Speaking of Arnautovic, he had a couple of decent chances, especially with his head. Aslani nearly added a second with a long-range strike that ended up on the roof of the net, on the outside, of course. And everyone, not everyone, but you could hear people celebrating in the crowd. It was that close. People thought that it had crept in. Verona created some danger, particularly through Sar and Suslov, but they lacked that cutting edge. And Suslov, to be honest, in his opportunity was very selfish, and that's what tends to happen when you're a smaller team who's peeled a little bit away from relegation, who's playing a big team like Inter, and you suddenly have this opportunity. You're like, you know what? Fuck these guys. I'm gonna make a name for myself.
Exactly.
And that's absolutely terrible. Red flag, in my opinion.
It is a red flag. Also an opportunity for the player, which we have to understand and kind of respect.
It's crazy how Inter and Napoli have the same themes, right? The same talking points. Because Inter, this game, they won ugly, right? In a quite a boring game, and they have a player who did well this game, who doesn't quite suit this system, in Aslani.
Yeah.
So we can discuss the same thing because he had one of his better games for Inter this game. Should Aslani try again next year here, or should he move on?
This is Aslani's second season at Inter.
I believe so.
I don't know. I think I'd move away if I were him. I think the fact that he had a spike in performance over here maybe makes slightly bigger teams interested in him, and he could use that momentum to find himself a more suitable environment to continue to grow in. I think it's done for him at Inter. Inter signed someone literally in his position to be a vice for Çalhanoğlu. So I would move on if I were him.
Do you remember his name, just for those who don't know? I know I'm putting you on the spot. Something Itch.
It's from the team that beat Milan in the... Who's that team that knocked Milan out?
God, bro,
not the team that not Feyenoord, but the team that didn't allow Milan to get top 8 in the Champions League.
Dynamo. Fucking hell, I can't even remember.
Jesus Christ, look what you did. Dynamo Zagreb. It is Sucic.
Thank you. We got there eventually.
Yeah, sorry guys.
I mean, this game is pretty much redundant now, this Inter game.
Yeah.
Hellas Verona are dangerously slipping down again after
they're on a terrible run.
They're on a god-awful run. In fact, like, if we have to look at the games which they haven't won recently, they've lost their last 3.
Yeah.
And then they drew the 3 before that, before beating Udinese.
They have a game against Lecce.
6 games without a victory now. Or without a victory.
They've got Lecce, Como and Empoli coming up. Mm-hmm. These are games that they're in the position that they're at, obviously discounting Como. They can beat Lecce and they can beat Empoli. But these teams are going to be so hungry against Verona, and we might just see them get a win.
Exactly, and the good news for them is that Kasper is back.
Ooh,
the friendly ghost.
Friendly ghost.
Yes, thanks, Ted.
Fantastic.
He played 10 minutes against Inter. Yeah. One more point about Inzaghi that I forgot to mention when we were talking about the Champions League, by the way, is fucking respect to a manager who's in a suit and standing there on the touchline
in the rain,
man. Drenched. It must be so uncomfortable. He doesn't give a shit.
No.
He's just there screaming instructions, barking. The officials must have fucking ran out of saliva begging him to go back to his technical area, but he's there with his players, man. That's a real team.
Mm-hmm. And also, obviously, that's always a good thing about Inzaghi. We often joke that he is essentially the 12th man because he's always in the pitch. Like, I saw a hilarious video, bro. I don't know if I sent it to you, of Inzaghi on the touch and constantly gets him running into the pitch and like helping players up and doing things like that. At the end, it just gets him running into the box and scoring a header. It's a hilarious video.
It's AI was
you. No, this guy's acting like this guy's acting as Inzaghi. He does the run perfectly, bro. No, hats off to him. I mean, he's there with the team, like you said. Also, a lot of pressure on him because, he from the potential tripletta to losing against Milan in the semi-final to falling behind Napoli after 3 losses in a row. Now they're the Champions League semi-final. He had to do it, right? So pressure was on.
He did, absolutely, bro. A very late welcome to our latest patron.
Yes.
Alex Rose.
Welcome, Alex. Apologies.
Yes. Apologies for not giving you your flowers earlier on, but welcome to the family. You've been a great addition to the group chat, and he is down to get weird and there.
Yes, he is.
He's down.
I like him.
He got on with Luca immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone would get along with Luca, to be honest.
It's true. Let's move on, bro.
Let's move on to the game that sunk Monza, right? The inevitable has finally happened, and it was Atalanta that delivered the killer blow. That is 15 points in 35 matches for Monza. The last time there was a team that performed this poorly in was it
Crotone, maybe?
No, I think Salernitana last year. Yeah. I think Salernitana last year had like 27 points that they got relegated with. But the season before, where Venezia, Cremonese, and I believe Sampdoria had gotten relegated, they were all on like they were all. It was the tightest relegation battle that there was in ages, basically. But 15 points in 35 matches. That's only 2 wins, 9 draws, 24 losses, only 25 goals scored, and 63 goals conceded. For
last
Monza,
season, 17 points. Salernitana had
17 points.
17
I thought
points.
27.
Yeah.
No,
17 points last season. The season before, Sampdoria finished with 19 points. And the season before that, Venezia finished with 27 points.
There you go. Okay.
That's it. That's quite a rough one, 27 points, and you finished dead last.
Right, man.
Very competitive year.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, lately the last team in Serie A has been really struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. Atalanta, on the other hand, their job is to remain in third place and to retain third place. They managed to do just that. CDK got a brace to score his first 2 goals of 2025 thanks to some horrible defending by Monza.
Terrible defending.
Super flat-footed, just a complete disaster when it comes to defending. Lookman then added a third at the start of the second half, and Brescianini for some more terrible defending in the 88th minute. It was an empty stadium. Zero effort, shambolic defending, clearly the weakest links this season, and a lot of weird decisions that led up to this moment.
Of
for
course,
Monza,
right? I feel like Monza are a team that has been abandoned by the unfortunate passing of Silvio Berlusconi, right? There clearly was a plan for this team. Investments were made. They were very exciting coming up. They played very flamboyant and attractive football in their first season in Serie A. They confirmed safety. They were essentially the Como of that season.
Exactly. They finished in 11th or 10th.
They had a really good season. Breakout players like Carlos Augusto was there. Frattesi had a breakout season in Serie B with them. You know, they had some good pieces going on. They were fun. Kevin Prince Boateng and Balotelli played with them in Serie B. They were a lively club with a lot going on. And then signing a bunch of players like Pessina, who took on the role as a captain. Gagliardini, Caprari, all these guys, even Cranio.
They had Rovella.
Yeah, exactly. It's even Itzo, you know.
They were so cool, man.
They were cool. They were really cool. And they've been completely abandoned, it seems. And now the management doesn't seem to really have a project in place. The handling of the managers of Nesta this season was bizarre. You give him the first few games, then you sack him, and you bring in fucking someone who's never coached before.
That never won in Serie A.
Never won in Serie A. You bring him, then you sack him again, and you bring in Nesta, back again. Like I don't know what the project. And I have a feeling that we're not going to see Monza back in Serie A.
Firstly, just to your previous point, this shit show that they did in the January Mercato. My goodness, that was a shit show, because at least they had Maldini, they had Bondo, they had Mari, and they had Juric.
Yeah.
But they sold all of them.
Yeah.
As they were dead last in Serie A. And who did they bring in? They brought in Ganvula, Borsin, Palacios, Zeroli, and Castrovilli.
Who the fuck?
Exactly. Palacios and Zeroli are youths of Inter and Milan. Ganvula and Borsin.
Ganvula does backflips when he scores.
Great. Castrovilli is super injury prone and he hasn't been at his best in ages. No, just a complete shit show. And now you look at the players that they have remaining. Let's take a look at. I'm going to read to you the list that I have in front of me right now from Transfer Market. All the players whose contract expires in June of 2025. Okay, you ready? Turati, Urbanski, Bianco, Palacios, Castrovilli, Vignato, Zeroli, Gagliardini, Pedro Pereira, Lekovic, no, because they have an obligation to buy. Poor guy. Sensi, Keita Balde, D'Ambrosio, Caldirola, Akpro.
Yeah, pretty much everyone except Dani Mota.
And Pessina. It's an absolute disaster, and I think down to B, and judging by how Salernitana did after getting relegated, judging by how Frosinone did after getting relegated, how Sampdoria did after getting relegated. Benevento.
They went down twice.
I think we might see a similar trend in Monza where we are going to completely forget about them, where they're going to sink and sink and sink and sink and sink.
Yeah, well, that's miserable. But yes, and the thing is, I can't look at this team and say, all right, he definitely stays in Serie A.
Pessina,
Dani Mota stays.
Maybe Akpro can be the vice the same way Bondo is a vice at Milan.
And I guess Keita Balde's passive. Churia could do a job somewhere maybe. But honestly, when it comes to everyone else, I don't know. But you know what this means? Andrea Petagna in Serie B next season because he extended with them.
That's gas.
That's gas.
That's gas.
He might
That's
actually
gas.
start scoring again.
Carnesecchi had a great save on Omari Forsen.
Yes, on Omari foreskin.
On Omar's foreskin. Hi, Omar.
Yes, and I believe Castrovilli, did he score and was disallowed? I believe there was a moment where he had the ball in the back of the net. If I'm not
If
mistaken.
so, I missed it.
Yes,
If so, I missed it. But regardless, De Ketelare is back. I think that's good. He got 2 goals. He needed them because he had a fantastic start to the season. Even in the Champions League, he was breaking De Bruyne's records, and then in 2025, he's really struggled for form. We know he can be on and off when it comes to his confidence. Hopefully, this gives him his confidence back.
Yeah. Absolutely, bro. Yes, goodbye, Monza. Ciao, ciao. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. We can...
That's Jake trying to multitask, guys. You were looking through the key moments.
I was looking
of
through the
match.
key moments to try to find if Castrovilli actually did score.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just my fucking hyperfixation. Yeah.
Your turn.
Yes, my turn. We were on Bologna Juve.
Yes, just context over here. Not the decider, but huge implications. Now the next few games we're going to be covering, every single one of these teams is battling for that 4th spot. Every single one.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, yes, a high-stakes showdown over here. Juventus struck first through Kefrem Thuram, who was played the ball by Cambiaso, who cut inside, took the role of a central midfielder, played it to Kefrem. Ferguson had run out of position to I guess intercept the pass or to block the channel for Cambiaso, the forward pass. And then once Kefrem got the ball, Ferguson went to close him down. He was a little bit late. He managed to get the shot off Kefren. It was a weak shot and
central.
Quite central as well. And Skorupski spilt it, and it ended up in the back of the net. A very soft
Luca
goal.
Argento would have saved that.
Yes, for sure.
Shout out! By the way, how the hell
Haven't we addressed
this on the podcast?
that Luca Argento is the best goalkeeper I've ever seen in person?
In front of me, I've never seen a save at a point during the warm-up, bro, where they were just cunting because they've got shots on them, these guys. We played a 7-a-side with these guys. Some of them are patrons. And they're just shooting the ball into a 7-a-side goalpost where there's Luca Argento, who's, a bit taller than me,
He's a big boy, Luca.
And
he
he's
says
a
it himself,
big boy, but oh my fucking
like an
god, bro.
eagle, bro.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
the save was in front of me. I've never seen during that warm-up there was a shot going top corner. The way he flew pretty much before the ball was even struck.
And he
my
would be in
God.
midair sideways, like lying down in midair, Like, how the fuck are you doing that, dude? But anyway.
He would have, Luca Argento would have saved Kefrem Thuram's shot for sure.
Yeah. Bologna pushed back and eventually equalized in the second half. They were dominant. They dominated
Yes,
possession. They were
absolutely.
clearly the better team. Dallinga headed down for Freuler, who finished with help from a deflection. This game saw lots of VAR drama, missed chances and late scrambles. It made it feel like, to be honest, although Bologna were in control, they weren't actually creating clear-cut opportunities,
Do you think Bologna... is it okay for me to ask a question now, or are you still...
I just want to say that Costa and Ferguson had 2 big misses. Ferguson's came at the end when he had to curl it and he missed the target. But these are, of course, misses when you have like a second to react, and if you don't react, you're too late. Costa had another one. Costa had a free shot on goal, but he kind of stumbled before he shot, and the opportunity vanished immediately. Cambiaso scored offside. He scored, but it was disallowed. Both teams had a penalty appeal, with Colomwani being dropped by Liko Janis. He was pulling his shirt, but he fell after he had stopped.
Okay.
It was one of those. And Freuler was...
yes, I remember it exactly.
And Freuler was dropped by McKennie. And that was a dodgy one as well, a little bit. But it would have been soft had it been given.
There were a few dodgy calls this week.
This week there were a few. But then, bro, you were going to say?
Are Bologna struggling, in inverted commas, now because they're feeling the pressure? A, are they feeling the pressure? B, is Italiano? feeling the pressure that once again he's going to have a season where he overperforms but wins nothing, potentially, or doesn't have anything to show for it, at least with Champions League football or something like that? Or is Dan Ndoye this important for the team?
So Dan Ndoye is very important because he offers an outlet that is very unique. Unique. They when you have him and you have Orsolini and you have Odegaard and you have Castro and you have Ferguson, these are players with totally different skill sets and they really complement each other nicely. And Ndoye happens to be the most explosive of all of them.
And super direct.
And very direct. He doesn't do that cutting in crap. He just fucking charges. He charges and he fights for his life. And they're definitely missing him. And they have two opponents now who play very defensively in Udinese and Juve. So it was a little bit of a chess match for them to open them up.
Yeah.
Plus, Juve, of course, this was a bit cagey, of course, because of the implications. And then Udinese, you can argue that they're playing without pressure, despite the fact that they're not playing for anything. But they don't actually feel the pressure to oh my God, we can't concede. They have that kind of, that mindset where they're like, we can relax, tighten the ship, make sure they don't get a victory here. Yeah. But next game will be... Now they have Milan back-to-back.
Yeah.
It's going to be massive, bro. I don't know what to do.
Do you think both teams go into the next game second team straight up?
I don't know, man. I don't know. And I don't know if they'll go with the same system. It's always bizarre when you play each other twice.
It's crazy.
Earlier this season, we had Lazio and Napoli doing it.
We had Milan-Napoli last season.
Yeah.
No, the season before when Napoli won the league.
Yes.
And I was in Australia, and I was I couldn't get internet. I wake up to find out that Milan destroyed Napoli 4-0, I remember, away from home.
These games are 5 days apart.
Madonna.
Yes. So there will definitely be rotation.
Good to mention that I think this was Bologna's game to win, as in, I don't know if that's the saying. Bologna had to... I think Bologna were favourites in this match. Of course, Juve had the suspension of Kenan Yildiz, the injuries of Bremer, Gatti, Cabal, Milik, Lloyd Kelly, and Cope Miners was doubtful as well. So I think Bologna could have done more in this game, and I think they'll be kicking themselves because they would have gone into the remaining matches with a bit less pressure had they won this.
Absolutely. But this was, I think, more than a must-win. It was a must-not-lose.
I guess. But, by not losing, they got knocked down to 7th place, huh? That's how fucking pivotal it is at the moment to win games. Like, they were in 5th.
Yeah. That's true, actually. That's a very good point. My God, how tight it is.
It's insane.
It's giving me anxiety looking at it.
I'm low-key glad Milan aren't in that race because I'd be dying, man. I'd be dying.
Thankfully, we're just there being like, hey, we still have a chance. Everyone needs to lose.
Prediction,
we're going to do it.
Who gets Champions League? We do a 3-1.
Wait. Let me pull up my Excel sheet.
Let's.
So currently, down in 7th, we're talking 1 point. They're all 1 point from 4th, so it's basically anyone's.
Fiorentina, I'm not counting them.
Fiorentina, no, I'm not counting them either. Bologna have that weird game against Milan. You never know what's going to happen.
And they have a game against Fiorentina as well.
Roma have Atalanta, Milan, Torino. Lazio
fuck.
have Juve, Inter, and Lecce. Juve have Lazio, Udinese, and Venezia.
3-1.
Wait, bro. 3-1 Juve. What the fuck? I'm gonna stick with Bologna. I'm gonna say they lose the Coppa, but they get Champions League. That's it. That's my prediction.
Fucking crazy. All right. Ready to jump? Next up, another direct encounter for top 4. Because if Fiorentina had won this game, they'd definitely be in the conversation, but they didn't. It was Roma 1, Fiorentina 0. Roma used the same 11 that beat Inter last week. Fiorentina rotated between the legs of the Conference League semi-final with Betis after they lost 2-1 in Seville. Palladino started Keane alongside the ex-Roma man Zaniolo. Ranieri was suspended, Dodo and Cataldi injured. Bove scenes, right, bro? Bove walked into the stadium and I cry. Bove, it was his first return to the Olimpico. And the scenes were beautiful. Everyone chanting his name, everyone with his kit. So many young men wearing Bove's kit, right? Because they look up to him, one of our own kind of thing.
Those scenes were very powerful.
Heartbreaking,
I feel
man.
bad
It
for
destroys
him.
me.
And it's a weird case because he can play in the Premier League, right?
Roma.
No. I'm not saying like he can. It's weird because it must be frustrating for him to think, so I can play in the most intense league in the world, but I can't play in Serie A. Like, it must be a horrible situation.
It must be maybe.
Yes. And this season he was playing on the form of his life. Man,
he was great.
He
was great.
Really
he
good.
Was
man.
great.
Yeah.
But let's not rub it into his face, the poor guy. It shows he's very well supported, which is a beautiful thing. He's a young man. He's younger than us. He has his entire life ahead of him. So yeah, his life isn't over. You know what I mean?
Unlike ours, what?
28, I know. The only goal of the match came in the 49th minute of the first half after an excellent move by Roma. It was an Angelino volley after a corner. He volleyed the ball to Shomorodov at the back post, who nodded it across the face of the goal to Dovbyk, who headed it into the empty net. The goal was brilliant. It is these great team moves that get Roma that singular goal in a match. And they're always great moves. I remember that Dybala goal against Milan, bro, in 1-1 draw. That volley,
that crazy
gorgeous,
volley.
gorgeous. But what killed me, bro, is Palladino in the fourth official's face holding the stopwatch. And it was 8 seconds over, like 8 seconds over. It was Palladino was furious, bro, furious. Like, look at the time, look at the fucking time. Like, obviously.
Like, look, this is proof that shouldn't count.
8 seconds over, like, ridiculously funny that was,
Hilarious.
man. I believe that before that goal, and this is why Palladino would have been so upset, Fiorentina were the better team. Fiorentina, who were just coming off a game against Betis in Seville that was super tough atmosphere where they put up a fight and whatever, went to Roma, outplayed them, and obviously a goal is scored in additional time of the first half. It's frustrating, right?
Absolutely. And there is one big reason that they didn't get anything out of this Fiorentina.
3, 2, 1.
Miles Villar.
I was gonna say Miles and then I didn't. Jesus, that's a failed brother test.
It is. We're not actually related.
Exactly.
Miles Villar, bro. What a player. What a keeper. And it is very difficult as a goalkeeper to have an entire stadium chanting your name in the last fucking 5 minutes of a game, man.
No.
Honestly, like Donnarumma was so good at Milan, for example. And he was so important, so loved by the fans. And he never actually got like fans chanting, Donnarumma or something like that. And he was great, So Villar is viewed to be the, not the catalyst, but one of the main reasons that Roma are on this run.
Yeah.
Because they win 1-0 very often. And every single 1-0 victory involves a Villar game-changing save. Yes,
sorry, I'm just going to reference something because we forgot to mention it. We won't get in. Let's not get into it, but I want to reference it because we have to give him his flowers. Sommer was
absolutely
ridiculous.
Excellent.
He had 3 world-class saves, 3 saves of the competition contenders.
One of them had an XG of 0.87.
Yes, and the striker fucked it up. The player fucked it up. It's true, but those 2 saves on Lamine Yamal.
And even the long-range one from Rafinha, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so good.
Jesus Christ. And Key thinks he looks like the guy from White Lotus.
That's hilarious.
Goggins.
My
Goggins.
God. Yes.
Not Dave Goggins, obviously, but I forgot his name, whatever. Walt Goggins, whatever.
Yeah, I think so.
But Miles Villar in this game, again, stupendous. Stupendous is, I guess, the perfect word to use.
Randomly picking adjectives.
No, but man of the match again. What is this? This must be like his 4th man of the match award of the season, and they all came when they needed him most, man.
Who's the keeper of the year? Is it him?
Yes. Vanya has the most saves, and Vanya was probably more remarkable for the first half of the season, even past January.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Vanya was incredibly consistent. He has like 123 saves.
Yes, and
this
he
season.
saved 4 out of 5 penalties as well. So he's definitely...
Oh, it's fucking like
It's
this,
tight,
bro.
but it's Villar,
And both
bro.
Serbian.
Yes. I think Villar has the most clean sheets. If I'm not mistaken.
No, Meret, surely.
I'll check it out.
Surely. But Svilar, like, he is, I'm going to say it. Is he? Yes. He is the player of the season for Roma. Is he? Yes.
He definitely has. It's fair. It's fair to say. We'll see. We'll see in our episode. I don't want to ruin it.
We'll see in our episode.
You know, when we do the tops, flops.
Yes.
Heroes,
Okay. Fair enough.
Meret and Svilar are tied on clean sheets this season.
knowledge,
as
babe.
Meret's done it in fewer games. 15 clean sheets each. Then you have Di Gregorio and Carnesecchi with 13.
Yeah.
And Sommer and Mannion with 12.
Svilar, for context, he prevented 1.23 goals in this match. He had insane 1v1 saves against Keane. He had 2, bro. And Keane was against me on Fanta. And I was out at dinner because the Australians are here. I was out at dinner. I was freaking out, bro. At a point, he was fanning me with a napkin. It was a disaster. And he had a great double save as well. What a player. Just fantastic goalkeeping, man. And another guy I want to praise is the same guy that on this podcast we shat on him so much. And every other podcast shat on this guy so much. The Roma fans shat on this guy so much. Zeki Celik
Has been...
since Ranieri came in, has rose from the dead. And he was being played as a right wing back. I believe in this game he was one of the centre backs. He was. And completely sound. He completed 83% of his long passes. Won 75% of his duels. He added 8 defensive actions to the mix, including a game-high 6 clearances. Total resurgence by Zeki Celik.
Yes, he's really turned his season and his reputation around. I think Roma fans no longer cringe when they see him in the starting 11. And he's doing a good job, I know, at this point.
Absolutely.
But difficult L to take for Fiorentina, in my opinion, this one. But Roma are just absolutely indestructible at the moment.
They are.
And it's hard to see them not taking it at that 4th spot, bro, considering the fucking rampage they're on.
Because you can take a look at the fixtures they have left and say, oh, but this is tough. Their games have been tough. And they're on a 19-game unbeaten run. 19-game unbeaten run. They're probably favourites. Now, the thing is, this is a good thing to mention considering there are 3 teams on the same amount of points in 4th and then Bologna are a point behind them. What happens if they finish level on points on the last day of the season? What happens is that is direct encounter. Now the thing is, I believe, let me just open the table right now. I believe Juve and Roma drew twice. They're in 4th and 5th, yes, and Juve and Roma drew twice. So that'll then go to goal difference. When it comes to goal difference, it's Roma 18, Juve 20. So it might come down to the finest of margins. And
might go down to yellow cards.
Bro, it might go down to discipline. If that ends up the same.
Oh, God.
No, and then what happens is, then it goes to goals scored. And goals scored is 52-50 because they conceded the same amount of goals at 32. So it might genuinely go down to discipline unless Lazio pull something out of their hat. But I think Lazio, because of direct encounter, they've lost to Roma.
They've lost to most of the teams above them.
They've lost and
drawn. It's a nice segue, to be
Roma.
honest. Shall we? Or is there anything else you want to mention?
Just that the Shumorodov-Dovbyk combination worked really well, and Shumorodov as well has really grown into this position. And I'm trying to think of some notes on Fiorentina, but it was genuinely, they played really well. I'm impressed, especially after the Betis game, which was a really tough and physically demanding game, which included travel.
Those commentators in the game were killing me. They
love Richardson, bro. They're like, Richardson coming on. Everyone watch out, like
at one point he gets the ball. I swear to God he was near the halfway line. I swear I'm not even exaggerating, guys. He gets the ball, he's slightly beyond the halfway line, and the commentator goes, Richardson can hit them from a distance. Are you crazy? What? Like, I watch this guy every week. What are you talking about? Can hit them from a distance?
But he's got an English name, right? So the British commentators get a fucking boner for him, man. It's so annoying sometimes. Jesus.
Yeah, it's random.
But for Fiorentina to do this well away from home with rotation as well, starting Zaniolo up front, who got sent off from the bench, and then Parisi, who had a very good game as well, without Ranieri as well. Tough game. They handled it well. Unfortunately, they were very, very unlucky not to get away with nothing here.
Yes. And we can move on to Empoli, who took on Lazio in their own home. And they planned, Empoli are really cute, man. They get together, they set up a game plan. They're like, all right, guys, compact 3-5-2. We'll clog the central areas. We'll play out wide, using Sol back in. We'll try to kill the game, and if we get an opportunity, we take it. All that just for 54 seconds in. Hisai gets the ball out wide. Kakacha doesn't press him at all. Zero. Hisai plays the ball over the top, crosses it in. Viti goes to head it and completely misses it. It lands to Dia, who finishes, and they get their goal, and then that's it. That they win the game.
Post-malaria Dia.
Yes.
They did Empoli in 54 seconds.
Exactly.
Post-malaria Dia.
And that was the only goal. However, it was not the only event of the game, because the game was very colourful, actually. Both teams finished with 10 men.
Yeah.
Empoli had an equalizer in the second half through Viti, who would have made amends, who would have atoned for his sins. However, it was ruled out by VAR for the slightest of offsides. Empoli struggled to create real chances throughout the whole game, pretty much. Colombo got a red card. He got a red card for a second yellow, which was absolute bullshit on Gigot. It was definitely not,
really? I didn't see
not a yellow card.
That was, by the way, before the goal was cancelled of Viti. This was in the first half. Colombo's red card was in the 38th minute.
Yeah.
He got 2 yellows in the span
yellows
of 4
Bro,
minutes.
the second one was so harsh. They went for a 50-50. I think it was literally a shoulder barge, but Gigot went down. He made it look like Colombo lashed out. And he got the second yellow, because it's a second yellow, it can't go to VAR. So he was... I hate that, yes.
Who makes these rules, dog? Like, if it's a second yellow, you can check just like, guys, if it's a second yellow, we can check VAR, because a player gets sent off.
But then what about the first yellow?
About the first? Someone can get sent off because of the first yellow as well.
And then his was deserved because he pulled his shirt. He pulled the opponent's shirt. Yeah, and at the end of the game, despite Empoli needing to get the victory, it was Lazio who broke through at the death, and it was Isaacson in a 1v1. Vasquez came out, he made himself big, and he saved it.
Yeah.
Massive win for Lazio, who seemed to abandon their principles this game. I haven't seen Baroni do this, to be honest with you. Let me tell you exactly. So he played Adam Marisic as a right winger for the second consecutive away match in a row, which shows a shift to a more pragmatic and cautious approach, right? Especially in crucial games. Despite Noslin, Chauna, Delebashiru, Belayan and Ibrahimovic all being fit, he didn't utilize a single one of them, which might indicate that he's not trusting them in this delicate part of the season.
Rather than not trusting them, I think he's set up to play a team that's battling relegation, and he's set up to face them away from home, right?
But he's set up to face them away from home. You don't put a body like Delebashiru in there to help add some physicality, some muscle. Noslin for that counter-attack maybe at the end, Clearly, I mean, these guys haven't been particularly
who are you going to play Delebashiru ahead of Rovella or Guendouzi?
So Rovella was subbed out. Who was he replaced by? Vecino,
Rovella.
He went for experience. It was Vecino who filled in his role, I believe.
Rovella was substituted in the 79th minute.
Yeah.
And Profsgaard came on.
Not a defensive change. Yes, he's valuing pragmatism right now, and it's clear to see. There's no you're getting an opportunity at this point of the season.
Yeah,
they're
no
fully serious.
They're in the mix for that fourth spot, bro. They're level on points with the two teams above them. They're in the mix. They can't fuck around.
Yes, they're prioritizing experience. However, Hisai got a red card, so it goes to show that even experience can bite you in the ass. Yes,
it's good to see that Nuno Tavares seems to be he could make it back for the last 3 games of the season, but he's a nice little outlet to have if you need a goal or you need an assist. Keep in mind, this guy was the top assister for the majority of the season until I think Lukaku and Leao overtook him.
Yeah, he's a weapon. He's definitely a weapon. And when you have Hisai, Pellegrini, Marisic as your options, it's nice to have someone who's a little bit different. Yeah. Absolutely, yes. But Lazio still alive here. Empoli still alive there. Still alive today.
Still alive, but Empoli still alive. They're in.
No, still alive for relegation.
But
still alive to die.
They have a match against Parma, which is very crucial for them, because one win and they jump Lecce. One win is all it takes falling in love with me. That's all it takes. Anyway, shall we jump to the next game?
Yes.
Genoa. We're flying, huh?
We're flying.
We're only 1 hour and 10 minutes in. Genoa 1, Milan 2. In this game, Milan won the only way they know how to win, bro.
By going down.
Exactly. They were entertaining. They're like, fuck it, just score so that we can start trying. So they put this is what they love doing. They love putting themselves and the entire fan base through the devastating feeling of defeat, and then the euphoric feeling of a comeback. Oh my god, bro, being a Milan fan this year has been like Jesus Christ. I'm quite sure I have heart problems. Conceição benched Leao in place for Loftus-Cheek, probably because he didn't want Leao to pick up a yellow card and get suspended. But
picked one up anyway.
Fofana limped off in the 28th minute and Leao came on and he got booked, so he'll be missing the upcoming Bologna game. Vitinha opened the scoring with his first touch of the game in the 60th minute after a perfect cross by Martin. Perfectly in front of him, just needed a simple touch and he guided it into the bottom corner. Leao pulled one back in the 76th minute after a square pass by Santi. Leao struck it. Huge deflection off the hand of Norton Chaffee. And then Frendrup put the ball into his own net just a minute later. We all thought Felix scored over here. And I'm pretty sure this happened earlier on the season as well. We were like, yeah, Felix scored. But it was literally the same.
My memory. You told me this.
But it was literally the same own goal where someone goes to intercept it and they just kick it into the back of the net instead. Question. Why the fuck are Genoa in their stadium so complicated to play against? Obviously, the rain doesn't help. But you know what? I don't know if it's the camera angle, bro. But their pitch looks huge. So, the players always look like they're one step behind where they should be. It was one of those games where Milan were always a step behind.
The conditions were horrible this game. Milan needed to win more than Genoa needed to do anything. So once again, you have a team who's okay to sit back and absorb the pressure and let the other team try to invent something in the rain. The stadium is very close. The fans are very close to the pitch. So it gives it that kind of intense vibe when you play there. And they have a great fan base as well. So you go there, you're getting booed to oblivion. And to be mentioned, they're well drilled nowadays with Vieira. They have a very good team. Not very, very good team, but they're very well drilled, honestly. Yeah. And that was his first goal. What's his name?
Vitinha.
In a year.
Obviously, we could have put a bet on him scoring against Milan.
But what a save, Mike Magnana. And he knows it. He knew it. He was thinking of that Instagram post the second he made the save. It's crazy how we're always joking about Manyan and this whole main character energy and all this stuff. And every single time he pulls off a save that's impressive, he proves our point.
What did they do? They edited it into like a Django Unchained scene or something.
So there was this guy screaming, "Let me in!" And then it gets Manyan on the line, and he won't let them in, you know. So I've decided to start. I don't know if you saw it on the Patreon group chat, but I've decided to start writing Manyan's biography. I'm writing it myself. I'm for him, just so he doesn't have to do it.
Okay.
And this is chapter 1. It's called "An Eagle is Born." Okay. So I'm gonna read it to you. Chapter 1. I almost died. My mother almost died. My father almost died. Everyone almost died. But we didn't. It's all about mentality. I was an emergency C-section. My father had a heart attack from the stress. I was born and caught my father before he hit the ground. It was at that moment I realized my destiny. I was born to be a goalkeeper. I was born to be an eagle. A magic eagle. A magic Mike the Eagle Manyan.
Beautifully written.
Chapter 2. The brave baby eagle. They tried to bully me. They failed. I kept catching my lunch before it hit the ground. I would fly across the playground, extended, getting my fingertips on my ham sandwich before it hit the filthy ground. I was too fast for them. It was my destiny. That's all I have so far.
That's amazing. You should keep it up, bro. It's like one of those children books. The chapters are very, short. What a save!
It was a great save. It was a great save.
Phenomenal save. And he had another one. He had another brilliant save as well during the game. No, he completely saved Milan, and also the substitutions by Conceição. Conceição made some changes that really shifted the game. Particularly bringing on, for example, Santi Jimenez, who assisted Leao, bringing on Felix, who essentially forced the own goal. So I'm going to say he started getting used to the team, that kind of thing. But effective substitutions by
good reaction to going down.
By Conceição. Now, Milan go into the double header against Bologna. They miss Leao in the league fixture. I asked you earlier, you gave me a very brief answer because we weren't discussing Milan at all. So I'm going to ask you again. How heavily do Milan and Bologna rotate in the league game?
I think Milan completely. Totally. Because the chances are so slim, you prioritize that game and you pray to God that Bologna fall in the trap of not rotating. Because that would be massive for Milan. I don't know, man. I don't know what Bologna will do, to be honest. I don't know what Italiano will do. I think there will be rotation, but I expect to see certain key pieces consistent in both games. Maybe he'll start with some key players and maybe remove them early, I think. But the fact that they're very much alive for that top 4 finish in the Champions League and winning the Coppa would be beautiful. And one indication, is that the director of the president, of Bologna has said that winning the Coppa Italia means a lot more to the city and to the team than qualifying for the Champions League. I'm not sure I totally agree with that. However, that is an indication as to it's a trophy, sure, but bro, back-to-back Champions League qualification changes a club financially and internally and internationally, because reputation-wise, all of a sudden you're suddenly a regular Bologna again in the Champions League, and it can't get much worse than this year and their performance in it. So I expect, to be honest, I think that both teams will rotate heavily.
I think heavily. I think healthily.
Milan heavily, for sure. You think Milan are gonna Healthily meaning?
So they'll have 4 or 5 starters. They can start some of the defenders. They can start one of the attacking players, and then because there's also the option of trying to win the game early and then changing around a lot. But you can, for example, start Reinders and Bondo, for example. You can start Pulisic and Felix, you know, and then you take out Pulisic for Leao, or you take out Bondo for Fofana, for example, and just do that smart kind of rotation.
I don't know if it's worth it, to be honest with you, because if you rock up with a semi-rotated team and you see your opponent is totally rotated ahead of the next game, you panic.
But
You
playing 45 minutes versus playing 90 minutes versus
both
not
of you don't
playing
get the
at
lead,
all.
then what? Then it becomes complicated.
No, then you have to...
It's a whole hassle, and to be honest, it's a headache for the coaches to figure out. If I were the coach of Milan, I would rotate absolutely everyone. If I were the coach of Bologna, I would do this healthy rotation you speak of. I think that's the
question. The real question is why I'm asking this is: should I start Reinders? Should I start Orsolini? Should I start Jimenez?
This guy's about to win the
Should I
Fanta
start
Calcio
Milan?
of our local group.
There are 2 games left to go, and I'm only 3 points ahead. My squad is decimated, and I have tough fixtures. I'm gonna have to start with Luvumbo and Piccoli up front. How aren't you taking this seriously? You won.
Bro, you won. Congratulations. Shake my hand.
I want to shake his hand.
I want to shake his hand.
I'm not shaking shit. Who's gonna win the... Oh my god. The next time... No. Because we're probably recording on Tuesday next week. And the Coppa Italia final is on Wednesday. So we'll do a bit more of a preview
yes,
on Tuesday
nice.
about this. So right now, perhaps we can move on, brother.
Absolutely.
And we'll have news about the team. And then will Fofana be back and whatever.
Will Fofana. Parma 0, Como 1. What a game.
Relegation battle. Well,
Como confirmed their safety.
Not for Como.
Exactly. But for Parma, yes, absolutely. And this was actually a very, very, very entertaining game. Strefezza was the one who punished Parma late on in the 79th minute to score after Giorgio Icone played the ball over the top. Duvikas tried to take a touch to beat the defender. It was a little bit too heavy, but worry not, for it has fallen to Strefezza, who places the ball into the back of the net, scoring a back-to-back and earning Como another victory and extending their streak. They are now the best of the rest, Como, when it comes to the standings. The teams above them are the regulars in Serie A. It's crazy what they've done, from Serie D to top 10 in Serie A in their first season. Absolutely mental. Yes.
Who is this? Wrexham.
Parma were extremely wasteful in front of goal, and they played very nice football to get there. That Ondrejka played really well. The way he was taking his men on, he was pushing the ball past the man and going round them and all that. They were linking up really well. In the first half, Boni, after Ondrejka set him up, Shimid left, Shimid right, ended up squaring the ball to Pellegrino, who had a clear shot on target, and he ended up skying it. That's when it should have gone 1-0.
He fucked it.
Yes, and then it was Giorco's turn in the second half to mess up a good opportunity. Nico Paz played an excellent ball to him. Defense splitting ball to set him one-on-one, coming in off the right at an angle. Icone decides to try to roll the ball to his right, so basically to the near post, and smash it past the goalkeeper at the near post.
He floored the keeper.
Yes, he floored the keeper, but he hit the side netting. Yeah. It was definitely not the correct. It was the most Giorgio Icone thing I've seen. It was textbook Giorgio. Thankfully, shortly after he got the hockey assist for the goal. Also, at the end of the game, Dennis Mann with 2 massive misses. What has happened to our man, Dennis Mann?
I bought you his shirt. So we went to Romania. I bought you his shirt, and he's
done.
He's really struggling. He missed
an empty net, similar to Pellegrino's. He skied it, and then he missed a one-on-one after being played through.
Yeah, he's up
his
starting.
His confidence is definitely shot. I'm not sure if it's something personal or it's purely like professional. We don't know.
Dennis Mann. Better.
Yeah. They have many injuries, Parma. However, they still managed to play some decent football. They pushed high, they pinned Como back, they created high quality chances through overloads and pullbacks, especially via Hainut, who had a really good game. Pellegrino and Mann were the reason they lost this game. Suzuki, on the other hand, was the reason that they remained in this game for so long, because he did pull off one particularly good save. Yes.
Let's play a game.
Yeah.
Guess the XG. Parma.
I have to guess. I would say 2.2.
2.2. 7-1.
2.71.
Is their XG, and they scored none. And they're battling relegation.
Yes. Como's XG, I have to guess now. Is that part of the game?
I guess, sure.
0.9.
0.77.
0.77.
You're not bad at this Guess the
bro,
XG game.
I like XG. Yeah. Boutez had a few good saves, I guess. But other than that, this game was literally highlighted by the fact that these players...
The misses of Parma.
The misses of Parma. And not the misses being
She's
the wife. Exactly.
A lot of, obviously, injuries for Parma, as you mentioned. Osorio, Estevez, Bernabe, Mihaila, Kowalski, Charpentier, Vogliacco. Even Cancelleri and Benedicak weren't 100% for this. But Benedicak did feature.
Exactly. What do you expect to see from Como next season, brother? Do you expect them to go on a European push?
I see them getting closer to that Conference League spot.
Because they've taken Torino's 10th.
They have taken Torino's 10th. And simply because they're not a fearful, newly promoted team. They're a very courageous one. And they have spent the entire season playing football the way they wanted to play it. And that meant that they started off a very slow start to the season. They were flirting with relegation for the majority of it. But then the team got used to each other. January came about and they were super smart in the market. They have money, bro. They have Indonesian tobacco company, cricket club owning money. And you don't see them going for the jugular when it comes to signings. Did they try to sign Theo Hernandez for 40 million in January? Mm-hmm. And Milan accepted and Theo said no? Absolutely. But other than that, Kakere is a player that they brought in, for example. Duvikas is another player that they brought in. Diao, who absolutely revolutionized their output completely. Jorko Ekone, who is starting most of the games. Just really, really smart signings and signings that fit the system. And Fabregas has such a clear idea of how he wants his team to play football.
Absolutely. And he's also gone for... they've gone for a combination of young talents and experienced players. Like Jovine, they kept him on. He was a leader in their rise from the lower leagues. Mm-hmm. Jovine, and he actually featured at the beginning. He knows the value of the shirt. And then you have the likes of Pepe Reina and Sergio Roberto, who are brought in with this international experience at the absolute highest level. They've got one wild card when these teams usually have too many in Dele Alli.
Yeah.
Right? So they didn't overdo it on that front. When I feel like certain teams, like sometimes Milan, fall victim to this, yes, where they give too many wild cards a chance in one season.
Origi.
Yeah.
Morata, Abraham. So on and so forth. Jovic.
Every striker that was bought pretty much in the last,
Exactly.
But excited to see what Como can do. Love their stadium. Love the fact that they've come up and Monza have gone down, because I'll have one of them, but not both of them.
Right.
I don't like too many of these teams that were pumped. Exact new era, cash injected teams from the north. I like the fact that they've gone down and now we're getting potentially more southern teams.
Yeah, well, Como couldn't be more north. Yes,
but from the playoffs of Serie A.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very good. Shall we move on to the next one? The next one is Cagliari 1, Udinese 2. Super disappointing result here for Cagliari against an Udinese side that have nothing to play for. Yes, they held Bologna recently. Yes, they got killed by Milan, destroyed 4-0, and everyone was saying that's because they're at the beach already, including ourselves. Cagliari they had good momentum. They were coming off a 2-0 win away against Verona. Udinese had ended their run of 5 consecutive defeats by holding Bologna 0-0. But Ezibwe and Payero sat out bans with Tuvon, Lucca and Toure all injured. So the scoring was opened as Modesto set up Zarraga in the 26th minute for his first goal of the season after a Luperto error, and the Luperto error was hilarious. Clearly he took his eye off the ball, misjudged the flight of the ball completely, and Luperto seemed off sorts for the entire game. Just a step behind, not reading the game well.
Very unlike him.
Suspect. Zortea...
I doubt that at this point of the season.
Zortea equalized in the 34th minute after a looping ball by Makumbu.
What a ball, huh?
The brilliant ball.
And the
by
touch
Makumbu.
by Zortea.
That's Zortea's 6th goal of the season. As many as the Bala, which is excellent. And he did the Illuminations celebrations. The Illuminati
Triangle.
celebration triangle. Yes, that's what...
Yeah, just for explaining. Apparently he's obsessed with Theo Hernandez.
Yes.
Like his play style.
I'm also obsessed with Theo Hernandez. And it makes sense, to be honest, because they play very similarly.
Marauding.
But Zortea handled that well. I thought Makumbu's ball was brilliant, and nothing, I'll say this later. And then Christensen eased the ball into the back of the net for his first ever Serie A goal after a corner kick where Cagliari defended very poorly. And in fact, a statistic over here, well, not a very accurate statistic because I couldn't find the statistic, is Udinese essentially excel from set-piece scenarios, and Cagliari are the team that concede the most from set-piece scenarios in Serie A. And to make matters worse, Yeremina was out for this game.
Yeah, there's a clear size discrepancy between the teams. What a miss by Piccoli as well, from the get-go. Like, you're one-on-one, you expect him to hit the target there at least. I mean, it was margins, it went just wide, but you expect him to do a little bit better there. But I guess this is what we often discuss on the show. We say that this is what you get when you invest in a striker like Piccoli, right? He'll score 1 out of 3 of those chances. You know, he's not exactly clinical. He'll have
found
his day.
A bit more consistency with his all-round play.
Exactly. But his numbers, they're not great.
He's highly driven because he's on 9 goals this season. For that, it would be the first time in his career that he gets double digits in Serie A. And I'm really hoping that he manages to do that.
Yeah.
Because I have him on Fanta.
Oh, God, this guy!
Udinese, as always, one thing that they have going for them, they've got many things going for them, but the wingers, right? They're a wing play rather. It almost seems like no matter who they're playing on the wings, they're putting in a shift. And over here we saw Modesto and Camara both get the assists for the goals. Udinese are Inter, if Inter were an 11th place team.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And Udinese are Hellas Verona are Udinese if they
were even worse.
That's the Pokemon evolution, right? You get Hellas Verona, you turn it into an Udinese, and it turns into Inter.
Exactly.
Their bad run seems to be over. Udinese, they had 4 losses in a row. 5 losses in a row. For Hellas Verona, Inter, Genoa, Milan, Torino. Then they drew to Bologna, which was a good result. Now they've beaten Cagliari. So nice to see that they haven't totally abandoned the season. And that Runjaic has these guys playing for something. Because their squad is also depleted.
It is.
They're missing all their creative players and their best striker.
And their next game is against Monza. So hopefully that's another victory for them. Unless Monza are like, let's get our 3rd win. Let's at least get 3 wins. A shout out goes to, so first I just want to reiterate how disappointed I am by Cagliari, because I thought this was a game that they could not only draw but that they could get the victory, because they're at home in Sardinia, and that stadium is amazing, very close. The fans are very close to the players. Brilliant atmosphere. It's always sold out. The curva's lit. And they were coming off an away victory against Verona. Highly motivated team that peeled away a little bit from the relegation battle. You'd think they'd put in more over here. But I was very, very disappointed by them. One guy that stood out to me, of course, Makumbu was excellent. He got that assist. But the all-round play of Adopo, I really, really liked. He's still only 24 years old, Adopo. He's not super young, but he's not ancient either. But just very, very good. All-round play for him. He can tackle, he can pass, very good performance by him.
He has some affiliation with Atalanta. I believe from Torino he was bought by Atalanta and then loaned to Cagliari, if I'm not mistaken. So he might be owned by Atalanta still. I will double check that actually.
He had 6 out of 9 ground duels won. He had 1 out of 1 aerial duel won. He had 2 clearances, 1 blocked shot, 2 interceptions, and 5 tackles. That's a hustler right there.
He is literally a hustler.
That's a guy that can break down play. Again, I'm going to repeat them because I don't feel
1 year loan.
1 year loan. I don't feel like you completely registered them, but 6 out of 9 ground duels won. 1 out of 1 aerial duels won. 2 clearances, 1 blocked shot, 2 interceptions, 5 tackles.
And that's a heroic display. And he had to, because they started with Marin in the midfield.
Yeah.
And when you started with Makumbu, Adopo, Marin, you have to protect Marin. That's it.
Exactly.
Defend your regista, defend your creative player. And they did well, to be honest. It was a shame that their goals that they conceded were so scrappy.
Yeah, and again, if Cagliari won this game, they would have mathematically survived. It would have become official in their own stadium, in front of their fans. They would have been allowed a beer. No beer for you now.
And Pulli, the mascot.
What a legend.
Yeah, walking up to the fans with the team.
Yeah.
Absolute legend. Yes, bro. We can move on.
Yep, over to you. And I believe this is the last game we're going to be covering.
Yes, we have Torino and then Wisdom with the Wank.
Then Wisdom with the Wank, of course.
Torino, Venezia, this ended.
Sorry, can I ask you one question? Because this was a good question on the group chat. If
course.
you could choose to pick...
yes, Matthias.
Yeah, brilliant question, Mattias. If you had to choose to redeem Caprile or Piccoli, who would you pick?
It's a really tough one in my opinion. I think it's harder to find the player who contributes 10 goals a season than it is to find a goalkeeper who can do a good job.
Yeah.
It seems in Italy most teams have a good keeper, and most newly promoted teams seem to either loan one in from one of the bigger teams. Because in football, if you think about it, man, with the goalkeeping position, you have the most available potential starting talent, because every team can only play one, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got a prodigy of a goalkeeper, but you've got an experienced veteran, like Monza, for example, got Turati. Granted, he wasn't totally refined, Turati, and in fact he has his weaknesses, like coming out of the box, but it's just an example. He saved them on multiple occasions, though. You know, the fact that you can get someone like Radu for your team, like Venezia,
who's been
very
doing great.
good. Yeah, he does
Venezia.
a good job.
And to think
that there are available veterans who would love top flight football as well, who will still put in a shift.
And there's, Lecce have Falcone, Verona have Montepo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Empoli have Vasquez.
Milan's guy.
These are good goalkeepers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Caprile, to be fair, came in and he really, really solidified that role.
He's a leader. He organizes the back line.
You know?
He would make, to Matthias's point, because Matthias said he would keep Caprile. He's absolutely... He's the glue for them defensively. And it's clear he's a leader. He's only 23 years old. And he could be a potential goalkeeper going forward. That's a staple in this team. And his upside could be very good as well, market value-wise. However, then I look at Piccoli and I think that the way he's developing, man, it might be worth the punt. 24 years old, 10 contributions, playing one of his best seasons in a while, if not his best season. I think I would go for Piccoli personally.
I would do so as well.
And Piccoli, if he has one good season, then you can flip him for a ridiculous amount. In Italy. You get 20 million from him.
He's Italian, right? On that note, Piccoli has never had settlement. Now that
consistency,
consistency. Now that he's had, but he's always jumping, being the loanee at one struggling club to another struggling club to another struggling club. Now he's at Cagliari. If they were to redeem him or he's kept over there, he has a season under his belt where he could potentially hit double figures. Please, Piccoli, hit double figures, and it's only up from there, because now his teammates are going to get used to him. He's quite well-rounded, man. He's just lacks a bit of consistency. He lacks remarkable attributes.
That's
what he lacks, Piccoli.
I like his hold-up play. I like his link-up play sometimes.
Yeah.
His finishing can leave a bit to be desired. But yes, I think I would go for him, to be honest.
Same.
Yeah. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. Over to you, bro. Last game.
So, Torino 1, Venezia 1. So, yes, I mean, where to start, bro? Venezia were left ruining missed chances and the controversial VAR decision as they dropped 2 fat points in the relegation scrap. Zerbin scored early after a clusterfuck of misfortune, which saw Yeboah cross the ball in. It hit the post. No, sorry, he curled it. He curled a shot from the right. It hit the post, ricocheted off the goalkeeper, hit the post again. Somehow was played across goal, and Zerbin was there to score, to poke it in. However, Gitkier's toe was offside in the build-up, so that was ruled off. And then Kike Perez, we are talking over here. Kike Perez in the 37th minute had a very well taken goal, which gave Venezia some early hope, who had started off very well. But Vlasic converted a penalty in the second half to rescue the draw at home for Torino. It was the 77th minute when Vlasic got that goal. In your opinion, brother, this was a very controversial penalty, by the way, because it was one of those that was played into Idzez's arm from right in front of him. Very harsh when that happens. Is this a valuable point at home, away from home, for Venezia, or is it a missed opportunity?
I think every point counts. So it totally depends on what they do for the rest of the games, because it's 2 points dropped, but a point gained. Sorry to be an idiotic answer. I think with the situation they currently find themselves in, and the fact that they were in the driver's seat, I think it's 2 points dropped for them.
Yeah.
Especially that it's fine because Empoli dropped points as well and Lecce dropped points as well. When are Venezia gonna get out of the zone?
When are they going to win? Finally,
exactly,
man.
Exactly. Like, take it over the line. Just a bit more of a killer instinct by them. Torino are a tough team to play against.
They are. They're
tough.
Take nothing away from them.
They are much better than these relegation sides, Torino. You know? But still, with the situation, I would say Venezia dropped 2 points.
I tend to agree with you, especially when you look at the momentum of the game in the first half. Venezia fizzled out a little bit in the second half, but they did have chances to score even more early on. There was an excellent save by Radu on Adams and Vlasic as well from long range. So in reality, Venezia, I think, will actually, judging by how the second half went, they will celebrate the point, I think.
Bro, sorry, are you not gonna talk about
the halftime show?
No.
Then what?
Are you not gonna talk about what happened to Vanoli?
Bro, I forgot about that.
Because
I haven't prepared.
Oh my god! Sorry,
because it was so shocking.
It was this. It's scary, bro. Because I've never seen. You've seen. Context, sorry guys. Just here talking with my bro.
So Vanoli, for those of you who do not know, is currently the manager of Torino. He had previously managed Venezia to get them promoted to Serie A.
Yes, exactly. Vanoli is a very expressive manager. Think of someone like Simone Inzaghi. He goes up to one of his players to give him encouragement. He's patting him on the back and he's essentially growling, and as he goes to walk away, he falls onto his back. It seems to me, I'm not a doctor, man, but it seems to me like he had an epileptic fit for like 5 to 6 seconds. He was on the ground and everyone went around him, got up, told everyone to relax. I'm totally fine. No, I'm not leaving. I'm staying right here. And everything went on as usual. The part that shocked me the most was when we've seen players collapse, when we've seen managers collapse, this and that, it almost seems like we never really get a camera angle of the full thing happening in front of us. But when we were watching the game and we saw something was happening and it gets a full-on replay of Vanoli hitting the ground and having
it was so shocking. Bro. It was so shocking,
I was
bro.
Like, holy fuck,
the color
man.
left your face, bro. What were you looking at? That was. I was shocked as well. Don't get me wrong.
I hope he's okay.
Apparently, it's clearly. This is something now. I don't have confirmation of this, but judging by how everyone went about it afterwards, nothing had happened, and the fact that he just drank as much water as he could right after, and then walked to the touchline and continued shouting out instructions. I think it's something that happens regularly. He must be epileptic or something. Yeah, but that was absolutely shocking.
I don't know,
and
man.
it was right after Torino were awarded a penalty.
Exactly.
Yes,
bro.
right after
exactly.
they were. So I'm like, oh my god, man, Torino got a penalty and he had a heart attack.
Exactly,
or something.
because the thing that scared me was he was clearly excited. He was clearly pumped. There was a penalty. So to me, it goes to fuck. There's something wrong with his heart. Like his heart couldn't take the moment. That's why I got scared. I didn't even look to see if they wrote anything about it, man.
Yeah.
You want to continue and
sure.
I look into it a little bit.
I mean, Venezia can be hopeful from this performance, as they can be from many performances this season, but unfortunately, it is not enough to be hopeful, right? You have to do better. One of their saving graces and one of the players that has really stepped up in this tough moment for Venezia, and this crucial moment for Venezia, is Yeboah, who had a very good game against Milan, had a very good game before that, and this game against Torino, he was absolutely electric as well. His interplay with Kike Perez and Gitkier in the first half was very, very good. I think, I'll just read this out as well, bro. This is something I wanted to discuss with you. You're multitasking, right? You're also listening.
Yes, but don't worry, bro. I'm the best.
Okay, very good. So these are Venezia's top 5 highest earners. So in 5th, they have Jorinen, who makes 700k a year.
The keeper. The keeper that got benched.
The keeper that doesn't play. Exactly.
Okay.
4th, Gitkier, 1 million. 3rd, Radu, the keeper who plays, 1 million. 2nd, Duncan, fair enough, 1.2 million. And 1st, Buzio, 2 million. Now, that just really kind of shows you and puts everything into context as to how much lower the level is and how much lower not necessarily the level, but the financial strength of a team like Venezia when taking on teams like even Torino would have a crazier wage bill than this. They'd have a much higher wage bill. Imagine these guys taking on the likes of Milan and Inter and Juve, whose wage bills are sky high compared to them. But however, I do think that for the little amount they spend, I think their top 5 isn't justified.
Maybe it's not wise.
It's not wisely distributed, their budget.
I know we disagreed on this earlier. I think Buzio
is the highest earner. Does that make sense?
Justifiable. Yes.
Is it?
Yes, it's justifiable.
If you have a newly promoted team in Serie A, I mean, granted, he understands the club. He had played with them in Serie A before, went down, helped to get them promoted. Okay, fair enough.
There's a seniority thing. There's the
Sure.
fact that they wanted to get him to stay while Tessman was leaving, for example.
Okay.
Buzio is
Fair
great.
enough,
He's a very
yes.
good player. I'd give him that. Duncan, I get as well. He's
Duncan, I get
vital.
as
They
well.
brought him in. He has experience with better
Exactly.
teams. Radu,
Fair enough.
perhaps, because again, experience with better teams.
Even though I think a goalkeeper, for a lowly team, it makes sense actually to have a goalkeeper paid well
I don't
because you need.
completely hate them. I think Gitkier, obviously.
Gitkier is the one that strikes me as weird, and the fact they have 2 goalkeepers as your
Yes,
top
but
5
he plays,
earners.
Gitkier.
Gitkier plays because Poyampalo has left and he's making triple what he used to earn at Palermo now in Serie B. I'm not a big fan of Gitkier, to be honest with you. I know he gives his all every game.
Got
he's
them
not my
promotion. I
favorite,
believe it was
exactly.
him that got that all important goal for them. Yes, we have the moment printed somewhere.
It's not framed.
You
but
draw
yes,
it.
exactly.
I don't completely. I think there are certain players that are left out, which makes it weird. And the fact that there's no Nicolosi Caviglia, for
But
example.
I guess maybe there's some agreement with
Juventus,
or something, or the fact that he's young, maybe his salary isn't that high
Did
yet.
you see? I sent you that Milan are interested in a number 6. Ricci is priority. If not, then Nicolosi Caviglia. Quite like that.
Yeah, I like that too, bro. I like that too.
Just to tell you, because I looked it up. So after the game, Vanoli did undergo medical tests inside the stadium. He didn't talk to the media. Probably avoided it purposefully. His assistant spoke to them and said that Vanoli was feeling good after his medical checks. Repubblica explained that Vanoli's collapse was probably due to a drop in blood pressure, probably due to stress. Kiki Perez went to hospital after suffering a head injury, but he wasn't unconscious at any point, and nor was Vanoli, and Vanoli didn't join him to go to hospital.
So this wasn't something that happens regularly for Vanoli, man. So he just got up and pretended that nothing happened when this was possibly the first time it happened. That's
But I
wild.
mean, maybe
Or maybe
he
suffered
has had, maybe
blood
he has
pressure
low
issues.
blood pressure
Yeah.
kind of thing. But I don't like these ifs, buts, and maybes.
Yeah,
Like
not
it's
at all,
his
yes.
personal shit. I doesn't need to tell us.
Exactly.
Kind
We
of
just
thing.
wish him well and we hope
Exactly.
he's okay.
Yes. I think that should be
That's
made important because
yes.
we're here giggling and stuff. Vanoli, obviously.
Because
we
he's
wish you
scared
well.
the living fuck out of us. You know, a
Madonna,
jump scare in a
bro.
horror film, you giggle after, but you're
Literally,
terrified.
man. Literally.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's move on to wisdom with the wank and
Yes.
see how much time we have left to see. Okay, we might be able to take on some questions. So, wisdom with the wank. For those of you who do not know, Simi in Wankwo has his own segment over here, the former Crotone top scorer in Serie A, and who's currently playing for Salernitana in Serie B. He's a 6'6" striker from Nigeria. He has a very unique play style. He's kind of like that type of striker where you give him the ball, he shields it, he plays obviously like a support striker type, in essence. Last
One
weekend,
of the 3 African players to record 20 goals in a singular Serie A season.
exactly, yes, and he scored last weekend at Salernitana in their 2-0 victory. He scored the second goal, and he posted a quote on Instagram. He always posts quotes on Instagram. This is what we like about him, and we love the fact that he doesn't like look them up, copy them, and paste them, because the grammar wouldn't be perfect. It'd have spelling mistakes in there, and I fucking love that. It means he sits
organic,
down
bro.
with these photos and he pours his heart out into his mobile phone. And this is what he wrote: "In the middle of difficulty times lies opportunities. Just keep showing up with the right attitude."
Exactly.
He's right.
Exactly.
He's
In
never
Maltese-
wrong, huh?
In Maltese, we say, I'm going to say it in English, but when God closes a door, he opens 100. And I think
That's what we say.
Uh-huh.
That's a shit expression. Huh? I thought it was when you...
But
But a window, no? Wasn't that the... Close the door to open a window.
It's a door or a window. I don't know. But I guess that's what
Yeah, Simi's is
Simi's
better.
going for. Every piece of adversity you go through in life, you have one goal. And it's to overcome that challenge. Isn't that the most beautiful thing ever, guys? If you're going through a breakup, you have one goal. Feel better. You get to focus on yourself and you get to focus on overcoming. You get to go to the beach alone and feel the sand and smell the ocean and then cook yourself a meal.
Absolutely.
Wisdom with the wank, man.
Wisdom with the wank. It's all about attitude. It's all about perspective. It's all about the goggles you put on to look at life. If you look at everything negatively, then everything is negative. If you look at everything positively, then everything is positive.
And it's fine. It happens. We all fall into these spells where we think negatively. Just remember, man, if you're not in your own corner, then who the fuck is? So be
Wisdom
in your corner.
with the wank.
Christ, man.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Shall we take on a few questions? Because we have 10 minutes to kill.
Yes.
Well, 9.
Yes. So Frank DM'd us some questions. He says, where does Donnarumma rank in all-time list of Italian goalkeepers? Now, unfortunately, I cannot say about, like, I can't talk about the
Zoff.
goalkeepers exactly. I haven't really seen,
Don't
you
know
know.
him.
We can talk about accolades. So you can give your opinion while I look up some accolades.
I think, ceiling-wise, Donnarumma definitely has the ability to go down as the greatest goalkeeper, the greatest Italian goalkeeper in history. I think the second I say that, I know exactly what kind of feedback I'm going to get. I know Buffon, to me, is top 3 greatest goalkeepers of all time. He's phenomenal. I think Donnarumma, if we're talking about shot-stopping ability, he's up there. He is gargantuan. You look at the performances he's putting in the Champions League, and for PSG, he's found consistency. See what he did with Italy. He's great. Like, no one comes close. Vicario had a great season at Spurs, for example. Not this season, but the one before. Comes nowhere close to displacing Donnarumma at any point. I think Donnarumma could potentially go down as the greatest Italian goalkeeper in history in the future.
There are certain things he would have to do, however, because Buffon
Has a
and
World Cup.
Zoff both have World Cups.
Yeah.
Zoff won his at the age of 40. Buffon is a 10-time Serie A champion. while Zoff is a 6-time Serie A champion and a 2-time UEFA Cup finalist. You look at those accolades are very difficult to beat. You look at Peruzzi, for example, as well, who played for Roma, Juve, Inter, and Lazio. He is also a Champions League winner, 3-time Serie A champion. Donnarumma already has Euros. He's won the French League.
He might win the Champions League.
Exactly.
If PSG go through and they take Inter to penalties, there's a huge chance
Exactly.
that PSG win over there. I
He's
don't
got a
really
good
think
start.
about accolades when I think about goalkeepers. Sure, it's a huge plus, but if I had to get... Right now, I think Donnarumma is the best goalkeeper in the world.
At the moment,
At the moment.
I wouldn't argue with you, to be honest, man. I think that if you're in a game and you go to penalties and Donnarumma's on your team, man, you're fucking fine.
I don't care about accolades, man. With
Yeah.
goalkeepers, it needs to be like if you're a super dominant
He's the best
team,
shot
like,
stopper in the world.
I think one of the most overrated keepers in recent history is Ederson, for example. Look at the accolades he has. You know what I mean? He'd go down as one of the greatest goalkeepers in history with the accolades
But there
that he
is something to it, right? Ederson is unique to that system. He needs to be celebrated. His accolades prove that he was
Yes.
pivotal to a system, that there was no goalkeeper who was capable of shot stopping and playing the ball with his feet that effectively, to the point that they didn't fucking replace him
He
for all
fits the
those years.
system. He fits the
fits the
system.
system.
Lukaku fits the system.
Donnarumma
of Napoli.
is
one of the,
so
one sec,
good.
one sec. Like Lukaku fits the system of Napoli. Is he one of the greatest? Is he among the greatest strikers in the world? No. He fits the system, and they play him to his strengths.
Sure. Donnarumma is so good at shot stopping that he fucking sucks with his feet and no one cares.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That's crazy.
he's
like.
26.
26.
Donnarumma,
He's got 10 more years.
man. So when Italy won the Euros, and he saved those, that was 4 years ago or 5 years ago. He was
Yeah.
21, 22.
Yeah.
Christ, man.
Crazy.
Christ.
When it comes to appearances as well, I guess appearances are a big part as well, longevity. But
Have
it's
you
always
answered?
difficult. I would say that he currently ranks 4th or 5th at the moment, all time. But he's got plenty of time to
At the moment,
climb.
yes, I think he will go down as first or second greatest goalkeeper, and
It would
Italy.
not surprise me at all. He's
Right.
excellent.
I could
Absolutely.
see it already, even his
Yeah.
name, Donnarumma.
Yeah, it's true. Tim asks, what was Mo Salah's Serie A trajectory like? To be honest, Cesco summed this up very well. He said he was decent at Fiorentina, nothing super special, he had potential. Then he went to Roma, he improved his game, even with the squad that Roma had at the time, which featured the likes of Nainggolan, Dzeko, Rudiger, Alisson, De Rossi. It was absolutely stacked, that team. Even with the squad that they had, he was a strange player. He scored interesting goals, he got great assists, but he missed easy sitters. Then he went to Liverpool, where he was utilized in a system that fucking fit him perfectly. It's the same argument we're having earlier. And now he is one of the all-time highest goal scorers in Premier League history.
Yeah.
Right? And there is a chance, it's very difficult, but for him to beat Alan Shearer's record. Which just goes to show that Liverpool scouts saw something in Mo Salah at Roma. That they said, we can utilize that. We can totally use that in our team. And the fact that he is extremely productive, but not entirely flashy. If you look at Salah as a player, he's always been like that. He's not the type to do a lovely step over or score a fucking bicycle kick or anything like that. He's very good at keeping it simple. He's very intelligent, very fit. Very fit. He remains in the game till the end. And that's what he displayed at an earlier level in Serie A.
And he went through that whole being discarded from Chelsea thing. The same thing De Bruyne went through, where De Bruyne played in Germany, got picked up by Chelsea, played nothing. He was sent back to Germany for Wolfsburg, got picked up by City. Boom, one of the greatest Premier League midfielders in history. Exact same thing with Salah. Basel. Did he go to Fiorentina then Chelsea? Basel, Fiorentina, Chelsea, or was it Basel? Yes. He went from Basel to Fiorentina. At Fiorentina, he was great. He was probably at that time their best player, right? Their most threatening player.
He went from Al Makouloun to Basel to Chelsea, Fiorentina, Roma, Liverpool. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but here he was at Chelsea on loan at Fiorentina, back to Chelsea for a season where he didn't play at all. Went to Roma and 14 goals in 34 matches. And then he spent an additional season over there. He was signed.
He was scoring every other game.
Out, and in that season, then he got 15 goals in 31 games. These are great numbers for a wide player in Serie A. And I remember you really rating him highly. And you have that photo with him.
I have a fucking photo with Mo Salah, and I have hair in it. It's crazy.
and he has the lack of hair transplant. He had that whole frizz thing.
We look like brothers.
Yeah.
And he's also got 60 goals in 105 games for Egypt, which is also impressive.
Crazy. Greatest player in Premier League history? Yes, in my opinion.
Salah?
The greatest forward in Premier League history.
I don't know. I don't think I would go that far.
I'd go that far. He's on track to break Alan Shearer's record.
He's the most productive. Yeah, fair enough. When it comes to matches played and everything, but I don't know. I've seen so many players who are just so fucking easy on the eye, you know what I mean? It's hard. I have to think about it, to be honest.
I asked this question on the group chat. I did yes or no, and you pressed yes.
What? The greatest?
Me, you, and Theo were yes, and then other people were.
Are you sure? I don't even remember.
Other people were arguing Henry, and then we started discussing the ones in Italy. And we're saying Baggio, Totti.
I don't know though. I don't know if I agree. But yeah, definitely one of them, and definitely he's in the top 5 statistically.
Yeah.
So yeah. For sure.
Very good. Do you have any more questions?
That's it.
That's it. Bang on time then. So we'll see you next week, guys. We'll be recording on Tuesday. So we'll give you a bit of a preview of the Coppa Italia final between Milan and Bologna. We'll also have a good case study to work with of the league match between those two sides. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you all soon. Ciao, ciao.
If you like Serie A or have ever liked it in the past, it's a good opportunity for you to listen once a week and you'll get filled in.
In the football weekend, that's like the main dish. But then a few days later, you drop your episode and that's like the dessert. And the dessert is just perfect.
It's good, the cake.
It makes it feel like we're all sitting in a room together, just BSing with each other.
The atmosphere is fantastic.
I promise nobody will ask you to send boob pics.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
I love how you go into so much detail and show so much passion towards each and every team. Literally, no team is left undiscussed.
When I listen to you, it's like I'm talking to you in a pub. It's like I'm chatting to a friend and you're chatting to me.